Hey everyone, and welcome to the Farming Pastor's Wife. I am so glad you guys have joined me here down on the farm. It is a cold day here on the farm today. It's cold and rainy. It was pretty mild when we got up this morning, but it's kind of just not gotten any warmer, and it's raining. And so I'm thinking we need a good, comforting meal. Now, normally I would do chicken and dumplings, but y'all know I just did those not long ago. So, we're having spaghetti and meatballs. Homemade. My homemade sauce or gravy, tomato sauce or gravy, whatever you call it. And then I'll make my own meatballs. And this will be a 2-meal dinner. We'll actually have it tomorrow night as well, except we won't have spaghetti and meatballs. What we'll have tomorrow night is we'll have meatball subs. So this serves kind of a dual purpose. And so this is what we're doing today. So we're making spaghetti and meatballs. So we're going to get started. I've got my pot right here. This was my pintos from last night. Brian just heated those up and he has spilt it all over my stove. So I'm going to clean that up. But if you remember back, who knows when, I rendered out some pork lard. So we're going to start with a kind of a good scoop of pork lard. Let me grab a spoon. And I'm also, you know, if I had a piece of bacon, I don't have any bacon thawed, but if I had some bacon thawed, I could throw some bacon in there, or a piece of tenderloin, or whatever. But I don't have that, but I do have some side meat. Let's see, I'll read you exactly what it's called. That's what I call side meat, but it's little pieces of just leftover ham and stuff. Country ham bits and pieces. So I'm just going to throw one little chunk in there, just to kind of give it, you know, give it that pork flavor. It doesn't really give it a pork flavor. It just kind of enhances everything. And that has some salt in it as well. So let me show you what I'm doing. While that is melting, I guess I need to turn my stove on in order for it to melt. And I've already chopped up one onion, and I've got one more to go. I've used 2 onions. And if you remember, I've showed you how to cut an onion. This was my onion. I've cut it in half from the stem to the root, leaving the root intact. And I just take my knife and shoot for the bottom center. With every cut, I'm aiming for that bottom center. And I'm going to cut down from this side. And so we're just aiming for that center, that bottom center. And then when I get to the top, see, I'm going straight down because I'm aiming for that bottom center. And then I start turning my knife the other way. This is kind of hard to cut and show you guys at the same time. And then once I get that, there is no cutting this way. I don't have to put my hand and cut this way. I just cut straight down. And then you've got perfectly little chopped up, diced up onions. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. All right. Just slide that out of the way. And we'll get this one done. My knife ain't quite long enough to go across the hole, but I really like using this paring knife when I'm chopping my onions. It didn't go across the whole onion though. That's okay. But look here, look at those perfectly little bitty pieces you have. And some of them aren't separated yet, but they'll separate when you get in there. See, you have these little bitty pieces chopped up. And you didn't have to cut but in one direction. Alright, so I'm going to go over here, scrape this into my pot. Going to turn it up just a little bit and let those saute. Let me bring you guys over here. I don't want to catch my tripod on fire. But there we have it. I may need to add a little bit more pork lard, but I don't think so. I think that's going to be good. And we're just going to let this saute down. And I'm going to open up my cans of tomatoes and I'll show you what I use. Okay guys, so the next thing I use is crushed tomatoes. And I normally use 5 of these cans. I usually start with 4 and then I debate on adding the 5th one. But 9 times out of 10 I always add the 5th one. And I have 2 different brands here. This came from Aldi, and whoever sells High Top, that's where it came from. You can add in, instead of using 4 cans or 5 cans of this, you can substitute a can of this for a can of diced tomatoes. But I don't happen to like getting a full bite of tomato in my spaghetti sauce. Now, I love tomatoes, but I don't want to bite into a piece of tomato, my spaghetti sauce. But if you do, just substitute this out for a can of diced tomatoes, or 2 cans. You could do half and half. So I'm going to open up these cans, and then once I get them open, by then the onions will be sauteed. Okay? Okay, guys. They're sauteed good. They're not really caramelized. I'd like for them to caramelize just a little bit more. I'm going to leave them just a little bit longer. I want them to get a little bit brown, but not burnt. Okay guys, they're starting to get slightly brown, and I'm a little late getting everything going, so I need to go ahead. Normally I would let them get a little bit browner than what they are, but I'm going on in with the cans of tomatoes. Ow! Turn your burner down, because you don't want your tomatoes to stick. And tomatoes will scorch on the bottom, so from here on out, you pretty much want to keep it a good simmer. You don't want it to be too hot at this point. And I'm going to add 5 cans because I wasn't paying attention, and I opened all 5 cans. Which is what I use anyway. So we're going to be good with 5 cans. The only problem is you've got to save room for your meatballs, because your meatballs go in here. Alright, so that was my 5th can. Alright, I'm going to stir the onions up. I need to get a plate to set this on. My spoon. And we're going to come over here to the sink, and I'm going to show you guys what I'm going to do. Forgive my sink water and my dirty dishes. Actually, those are Brian's dirty dishes. So, I'm just going to take a can of water in 1 can. Getting the size good. And then I'm just going to take this other can. Let me grab my spoon I had, and I'm just going to kind of swirl the sides. Alright, then I'm going to get another can. We'll go ahead and put the spoon in there. And I'll just transfer this can of water from one can to the next. And then I will add this can into our spaghetti sauce. So I'm basically just cleaning out the can and adding water to our spaghetti sauce. All right. Let's put this one in here too so I don't forget it. Okay guys, we're going to come back over here. I'll clean my sink out in just a second. And I'm just going to add this can of water in there. And I'm going to turn it to simmer. And I'm going to kind of stir it and check it quite often because I don't want anything to stick on the bottom. But I'm just going to let this simmer for an hour. And we're not putting any spices in or seasoning in at this point, other than the onions and the ham and the pork lard. And you don't have to use pork lard. You can use butter, you can use oil, olive oil. I just happen to have it. If I didn't have it, I would just use vegetable oil or olive oil. Olive oil would be great. And but I still would put some kind of a bacon or something in there. But if you don't, it's still going to be good because there's so much seasoning in here. And we're going to season it up like crazy. We still have another, not just the meatballs, but we have another whole kind of meat to go in here. So I'm going to turn this up just a little bit. I don't want it to scorch. We're going to turn it up. And then I'll get ready to come back in here and check it. And at that point, we'll add the next thing. The next thing is going to be tomato paste. Now, this is another one of those things that I wait and see how many. Normally, I just use one. And I think that's probably what I'll use today. But if you like that tomato paste flavor and thickness and richness that it gives, then you add can number 2. Or a can and a half, whatever. I'm going to start with one whole can, and then we'll see. That's probably where I'll stop, knowing me. But we have several more things to go in here before we even get to our meatballs. So I'm going to let this simmer for an hour, and I'll bring you back when that hour is finished. Okay guys, we've let it simmer for a while, so now I'm going to add in the tomato paste. And I'm going to add this whole jar. You can add more if you like. I think one does plenty for me. I think I told y'all last time this recipe kind of is I got it, the original recipe from the lady from She's in Her Apron. Her name is Kimmy. And then I've doctored it up to kind of be my own and do things a little different. I think she uses a significant more amount of tomato paste than I do. And that is your preference. So a lot of this tomato sauce is based on your preference. And it's going to make it hard when it comes time to do the seasoning, which is what I'm fixing to do, is we're fixing to season it. Because it's to your preference. You know, add more or leave more out, whatever you need to do. And that tomato paste will dissolve as it simmers. But I did want to give it a good little stir. Alright. So, let's add some salt now. If I can reach it. Okay. Alright. Maybe a tablespoon of salt. And just like everything else, you need to go back and taste. And with salt, it's always best, and I had to learn this the hard way because I love salt. It's best to start with a little and maybe a teaspoon of pepper. I need to get me a tasting spoon over here. This is just family eating this, so my tasting spoon will be okay. If I was serving this to somebody, it wouldn't be, but I would have to switch out spoons. And I'll still probably switch out spoons, but... Alright, now let's go for some basil. Good amount of basil. And let's go for some Italian seasoning. Ooh, got a little more than I wanted. All right. Now let's add some garlic. I'm going to add, and I use the minced garlic, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons. All right, let's give this a stir. Takes it a while to get all incorporated. I want to taste the salt level right now. The seasoning has not had time to disperse and flavor everything yet, but I do want to taste the salt level. So let me grab a spoon. Plenty. Plenty, plenty. All right. Let me add a little parsley. Now let's get some sugar. Sugar. And I'm going to start with 1/4 cup. And I'm just leaving my seasoning sitting right here on the counter. I'm going to fish this ham meat out. I guess I need a different spoon to fish it out. Here's a piece. It has seasoned it well enough. All right, let me give it one more taste. All right, I think it's going to need a little more sugar. And I'm actually going in with a little bit more of everything, except salt. I don't know why that comes out in my hand so fast. I'm gonna add another spoon of garlic. And some more basil. think we're going to stop there and just let it simmer for a while. Oh, hang on. I forgot an important part. I'm still fishing out that ham. All right. Now, let me show you the part I was about to forget. And y'all are just going to have to overlook my mess. I'm sorry. It's a messy cooking day. Because I leave everything out. Okay, all right. Italian hot sausage. Now, we're just putting this in there to flavor it. We're not putting this in there like to make it part of the meat. It's just flavoring it. Now, a lot of times I cut them like in fourths or thirds. But it becomes so hard to tell these apart from the meatballs. So, I'm just going to cut them in half. And I'm going to do 3 of them. 3 of them. And then we can fish those out if we want to. Alright, and that flavor just gets in there really good. I'm going to put the lid on, continue to simmer it. And we'll start making the meatballs pretty soon because I've got to make my crusty bread. Yum. I'll try to leave a link to that video. I always forget to leave those links in the description. So if I forget to leave the link, then by all means, please go back and look for my crusty bread. It is so good. So I got to get started on that because it doesn't take a long time to rise, but there is a little bit of proof in it that it takes. So I'm going to get started on that. Okay guys, we are back. The tomato sauce is over here. It is simmering away just as good as it can. It's got that Italian sausage in it. It is doing so good. In the oven, I have my crusty bread already in its first proof. It'll proof for an hour and a half, and then I will stir it up and I'll add some seasoning, some Italian seasoning to my bread. Put it in the dish that I'm going to bake it in, and then I'll let it proof for another 30 minutes. So I thought I better get started on these meatballs. The meatballs, once I have those mixed up and I drop them down in the sauce, they cook or simmer for an hour and a half. So, and it's okay if they go longer than that. So we're going to get started on this. I'm going to take my ring off, lay it over here, and see if I need to get anything else before we get started. Okay guys, in this bowl I have 2 pounds of ground beef, and this is 80-20. You can go leaner than that. It is just fine. I may at the end have to, you know, skim off some fat off the top. But 80-20 is what I normally use. So since I'm using 2 pounds, I'm going to put in 1 egg per pound. So we're going to crack open 2 eggs. I'm going to do that. Let's see here. I've just got a little plastic bowl here. We're going to crack them in. Goodness, these are so cold, they feel almost frozen. And I'm not really worried about whisking them too much. I just wanted to break them up a little bit. Because y'all, I'm going in with my hands in just a minute. Alright, let's bring the hamburger back over. There goes the 2 eggs. Okay, so now we're going in with parsley. Now here again, I'm not good at measuring, so I'm going to eyeball it. Here's probably a tablespoon. and another tablespoon. Yeah, let's say 2 tablespoons. We'll start with that. I'm going to put plenty of garlic powder. Plenty, 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 plenty. And be sure you're using garlic powder, not garlic salt. So, I would say at least a tablespoon of that. I'm now going to put in, and that was parsley flakes that I first put in. Let me get my measuring cup. I'm going to put in a cup of breadcrumbs per pound of meat. So, here's 1 and 2. Looks like a burnt breadcrumb. It is. A little burnt breadcrumb. Or it could have been seasoning, because I think I mixed. I had a can of Italian and a can of regular, and I think I mixed them. Alright, and we're going in with a lot of Parmesan cheese. At least half a cup. Let's see. Yeah, at least half a cup. Alright. So I'm going to see how it feels after I've got it together, and then we may add more stuff. I think that's going to be perfect. And you want to mix it and be sure you're getting all your seasoning dispersed well in your breadcrumbs. I got a handful of probably breadcrumbs and cheese over here. And if you're not squeezing that hamburger, you're not getting that stuff in there. Now, of course, you don't want to over mix it too much because that can make it tough, but we're going to take some and see how they hold together. Now see, and my meatballs are probably walnut size. You can go a tad bit bigger if you want, or you can go lighter. But I'm going to finish mixing this up. I'm going to get a plate over here, and in fact, I think I have a plate right here behind me. See if I can get it without touching and messing up anything else. I'm going to use one of these little red plastic plates. And we're just going to go in here. And like I said, we're making walnut size meatballs. And we're just going to make. That one may be a little big, but that's okay. Y'all, I did some rolling. Meatballs. So let's bring them over here and put them in the sauce. Let me get you guys situated. Okay, let me give it a stir. It smells so good, y'all. Bryant came in and tasted it, and I got his thumbs up of approval. Alright, we're just going to drop these down in here. There's a bunch of meatballs here, y'all. And so you need a good stock pot, a deep stock pot to do this in. Now, of course, you can cut this recipe in half because you probably don't cook for as many people as I do. In fact, in the description, I will give you a normal family of 4 recipe where you use 1 pound of hamburger. I doubled it. And, you know, you saw there's not many measurements when it comes to seasoning, so you just kind of have to do that by taste and what you like. If you don't like a lot of garlic, don't use as much garlic as I did. If, you know, if you don't like Italian seasoning or basil, don't use as much as I did. See, look, this pot is about to fill plumb up. We're going to push these down. We're not going to stir them because you don't want them to break apart, because then you'll have meat sauce. But we're going to just push these down, put the lid on, and let it simmer for another hour and a half. Okay. I'm going to put the lid on. We're going to leave it simmering for an hour and a half. And then whenever we're ready to eat, these will be ready. Okay guys, I'm back. I'm fixing to put the spaghetti over here in the boiling water. I've got boiling water, salt, and a little bit of oil in there. And I'm going to put it in there and we'll leave it for 10 minutes because we like ours to have a little bit of al dente bite to it. So I'll bring you back in just a little bit. Okay guys, I know this is not the meatballs and spaghetti sauce, but you're going to get to see what's coming out of the oven.
You being ugly. Look, wait, watch. I need you to watch. Is that crusty bread?
Mm-hmm. There comes the crusty bread out of the oven.
The crusty bread.
Shall we turn it out? It's really hot. Let's see if we can. Yes, we can. Y'all want to hear my test? That's what it sounds like on the outside, but when you cut into it, oh my goodness. It is like heaven. And I don't have any butter softened. I gotta do that. Okay, y'all, we'll be back in just a minute. Okay, guys, let me show you the meatballs real quick, and then we'll go in there and fix our plates. Some of them break up in the sauce, which is really good. That's fine because you want a little bit of meat down in your sauce, so it thickens the sauce if a few of them break up. But look, there's our meatballs for tonight. Yum, yum, yum. Okay, guys, there's Bryant's plate. Has anybody got a piece of bread cut? Well, here, it's cut over here. I'll show you. Look at there. That pulled out. But look how soft and squishy it is inside. Crusty on the outside, good and delicious on the inside. All right, Daddy, you gonna taste your spaghetti and meatballs?
Yep. I cut my meatballs in half. It's hot.
It's hot. So if he hollers, it's because it's hot.
It's very hot. It's perfect. Really good.
Really good. And look, little Judabug, we've done took his shirt off. This is one of Caroline's favorite meals.
And I don't really normally like spaghetti.
No, she's not a spaghetti fan until I started making my own. Well, thank you guys for watching The Farm and Pastor's Wife. Remember, if the grease is hot enough, you can fry anything. Thanks for watching.